Ever feel like relationships are just a bunch of spinning plates you're trying not to drop?
Oh, yeah.
Work, family, friends?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It really is.
Well, today we are diving deep into someone who might just have the instruction manual we've all been missing.
Okay.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek.
You know, the start with why guy.
Of course.
But get this. His insights go way beyond business.
Yeah.
We're talking about a whole framework for building relationships that last,
That's right.
no matter what kind you're dealing with.
You're absolutely right. People often think of Sinek in a business context.
Right.
But his principles on trust and empathy and purpose, they're like universal relationship superfoods.
I love that.
So buckle up, because this deep dive is going to give you practical tools you can actually use.
Okay.
Whether you're trying to improve your work team or connect better with your family.
Yeah.
Or just level up your friendships.
Okay, so before we hand you the keys to Sinek's relationship toolbox, let's introduce the man himself. I'll admit, sometimes these big-name thinkers can seem a bit, well, intimidating.
Oh, don't worry. Sinek's not some guru on a mountaintop.
Okay.
He's actually incredibly down to earth.
Okay.
He's an author, speaker, and consultant who spent years studying human behavior and what makes us tick.
He's put in the time.
Yeah, and his TED Talk, Start With Why.
Oh, yeah.
But, well, that pretty much broke the internet.
Yeah.
And made him a household name.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
It really flipped the script on how I thought about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Not just at work, but in everything I do.
Exactly. But here's the thing that might surprise you.
Okay.
Sinek didn't stop there.
Okay.
He took that why concept and applied it to the entire spectrum of human connection.
Okay, now you've really got my attention.
Yeah.
So how does figuring out the why behind, say, a company's mission translate to something like my relationship with my partner?
That's where Sinek gets really interesting.
Okay.
See, he's not about manipulation or quick fixes. He's about understanding the deeper forces that drive us to connect with each other in the first place.
Okay.
And those forces, they're the same whether you're leading a team or building a life with someone.
Okay, I'm all in. Let's unpack those forces. Where do we even begin?
Sinek always talks about trust being the bedrock of any strong relationship.
Okay.
He uses this brilliant analogy of a bank account.
Okay.
You can't just keep withdrawing, right? You've got to make deposits. Same with trust.
Okay. I love that analogy. It's so clear. So what are some of those trust deposits we can be making in our relationships? Give us the specifics.
Well, one of the biggest deposits, according to Sinek, is consistency.
Okay.
And he's not just talking about being on time for meetings, though that helps. He's talking about showing up for the people in your life in a reliable, predictable way.
Yeah.
Doing what you say you'll do, being there when they need you. Think of it like this. Every time you follow through on a promise, big or small, you're making a deposit into that trust account.
I've definitely been on the receiving end of flaky friends, and let me tell you, those withdrawals add up fast.
Yeah, they do.
So consistency is key.
What else is in Sinek's trust-building playbook?
Transparency is a big one.
Okay.
Sinek believes that being open and honest about your intentions, even your limitations, actually strengthens relationships.
Interesting.
It's about saying, hey, this is what I'm hoping to achieve. This is where I'm coming from.
Right.
And it's also about being upfront when you mess up.
That makes sense. Hiding things or pretending to be perfect just breeds suspicion. But I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up, right? Being vulnerable can be scary.
It absolutely can be.
Yeah.
But here's where Sinek flips the script.
Okay.
He argues that vulnerability is actually a sign of strength, not weakness.
Interesting.
He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, when you're willing to show your flaws, it gives others permission to do the same. It creates this space of mutual trust and understanding. Okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together. We're building trust through consistent actions, being transparent about who we are, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable.
Right.
It's like we're creating this foundation of safety and honesty.
Exactly. And on that foundation, we can start building something truly powerful. And once you have that solid foundation of trust,
right,
it opens the door to something really special. Empathy.
Okay, empathy. We hear that word tossed around a lot these days.
Yeah, we do.
But what does it actually mean in the context of building stronger relationships?
Right.
Because I think a lot of people confuse it with just being nice or feeling sorry for someone.
Right. It's definitely more than just saying, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Sinek sees empathy as this active process of truly understanding another person's perspective.
Okay.
Even if you don't agree with them or haven't had the same experiences.
So it's like stepping into their shoes, trying to see the world through their eyes.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
Right.
It sounds kind of abstract.
Yeah. Sinek actually gives us a really practical roadmap for cultivating empathy.
Okay.
He says it starts with active listening.
Okay.
And I don't mean just nodding along while you're planning what you're going to say
Oh, I'm
next.
so guilty of that sometimes.
We all are.
Yeah.
It's human nature. But active listening is about silencing that inner monologue and really tuning into what the other person is saying,
What?
both verbally and non-verbally.
Go.
Paying attention to their tone of voice,
Right.
their body language,
Yeah.
the emotions behind their words.
So it's like becoming a detective looking for clues about what's going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. And one of the best tools in your detective kit is asking clarifying questions.
Okay.
Not in a challenging way, but in a way that shows you're genuinely trying to understand their perspective.
Right.
Things like, can you tell me more about that? Or what was that experience like for you?
Asking those kinds of open-ended questions gives the other person space to really express themselves. I bet it makes them feel heard and understood.
It absolutely does. And here's another Sinek gem.
Okay.
He says that a key part of empathy is validating the other person's feelings,
Okay.
even if you don't agree with their actions.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction. So it's like saying, hey, I can see why you're feeling that way given what happened,
Yeah,
even if you wouldn't have reacted the same way yourself.
exactly. It's about separating the person from their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
We can disagree with someone's choices while still acknowledging that their feelings are valid.
I can see how that would de-escalate a lot of conflicts.
Yeah.
Instead of getting defensive, we're creating a space for understanding.
Right. And that understanding is the bridge to a deeper connection.
This is making me realize how often we jump to judgment or try to fix things for people
Yeah.
instead of just listening and empathizing.
Mhm.
It's like we're so focused on finding solutions that we forget to connect on a human level first.
That's such an important point. And it leads perfectly into another cornerstone of Sinek's relationship philosophy.
Okay, bring on the purpose. This is where things get really interesting. We know Sinek is all about starting with why.
Yeah.
But how does that play out in our personal relationships?
It's about recognizing that strong, lasting relationships aren't just built on shared interests or hobbies.
Right.
Though those are important.
Sure.
They're built on a shared WHY,
Okay.
a deeper sense of purpose that you're both working towards together.
So it's like the difference between liking the same movies and wanting to make a difference in the world together.
Yeah.
One is fun, but the other gives your relationship a sense of direction and meaning.
Exactly. Think about a successful team. They might have individual strengths and weaknesses, but what unites them is their commitment to a common goal.
Right.
It's the same in any relationship, whether you're raising a family, building a business, or just trying to make your corner of the world a little brighter. That shared purpose is what keeps you aligned and motivated.
It's like having a compass that guides you through the inevitable ups and downs of any relationship.
Exactly. And it's something you can actively cultivate.
Okay.
Sinek suggests having intentional conversations about your values, your goals, and what you want to create together. What impact you want to have on the world.
Right.
What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Those are big questions. But I imagine having those conversations can be incredibly bonding. It's like you're creating a shared vision for the future.
And that vision becomes the North Star that guides you through challenges.
This is making me think about my own relationship. We're great at planning vacations and picking out furniture,
Yeah.
but we haven't really talked about our shared purpose in a deeper sense. Maybe that's something we need to explore.
I think that's a great idea. And here's the thing.
Okay.
Defining your shared purpose doesn't have to be some grand, life-altering event.
Right.
It can be as simple as deciding to volunteer together once a month or supporting a cause you both believe in.
It's about finding that common ground that connects you on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I bet that makes navigating everyday conflicts a lot easier.
Absolutely. When you have that shared sense of purpose, it's less about winning an argument
Right.
and more about finding a solution that moves you both closer to your goals.
Okay, so we've got trust, empathy, and purpose. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Well, remember how we talked about vulnerability being crucial for building trust?
Oh, yeah, that showing your flaws thing still makes me a little nervous, but I see why it's important.
And it leads perfectly into Sinek's concept of the infinite mindset, which he describes in his book, The Infinite Game.
Okay, infinite mindset sounds intriguing. Break it down for us.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. Sinek argues that life, and by extension, relationships aren't about winning or losing.
Right.
They're about continuing to play the game,
Okay.
to grow, evolve, and learn together.
So instead of trying to win every argument or prove we're right, We should be focusing on building something that lasts.
Yeah.
Like we're teammates, not opponents.
Exactly. It's about embracing the long game.
I love that. So how do we actually apply this infinite mindset in our relationships?
hmm
Because let's be real, we all get caught up in those petty squabbles sometimes.
It starts with recognizing that disagreements are inevitable.
All right.
They're not a sign that the relationship is failing. They're an opportunity to understand each other better.
Okay.
And instead of digging in our heels and trying to win,
Yeah.
we can approach those conflicts with curiosity and a willingness to compromise.
So instead of viewing conflicts as battles to be won,
Exactly.
we can see them as opportunities to learn and grow together.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
It really is. And here's where Sinek's wisdom goes even deeper.
Okay.
He says, this infinite mindset isn't just about how we interact with others. It's also about how we relate to ourselves.
Ooh, that's fascinating. I hadn't thought about it like that before. So we're applying these principles of trust, empathy, and purpose to our own inner world.
Exactly. Think about it.
Okay.
Can you trust yourself to make decisions that align with your values?
Hmm.
Do you treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you offer to others? Do you have a clear sense of purpose that guides your ownably in life?
Wow, you're blowing my mind here. It's like we often hold ourselves to a much higher standard than we hold anyone else.
It's true. And Sinek reminds us that we can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
If we're constantly depleting ourselves, neglecting our own needs, it's going to be that much harder to show up fully in our relationships with others.
So self-care isn't selfish. It's actually essential for building healthy relationships.
Yeah.
That's a perspective shift I needed to hear. But how do we actually cultivate this infinite mindset towards ourselves?
Right.
It sounds a bit daunting.
It starts with self-awareness. Taking the time to really understand your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Okay.
What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
What truly motivates you? What brings you joy?
It's like taking ourselves on a date, getting to know ourselves better, maybe journaling, meditating, spending time in nature, whatever helps us tune into our inner world.
Exactly. And just like in any relationship, communication is key. Are you listening to your inner voice? Are you being honest with yourself about what you need? Are you practicing self-compassion when you inevitably make mistakes?
So instead of beating ourselves up, we can treat ourselves with the same understanding and grace that we would offer to a good friend.
Precisely. And just as we make those trust deposits in our relationships with others, we need to make those deposits in our relationship with ourselves.
Okay.
Things like prioritizing our physical and mental health,
Right.
nurturing our passions, setting healthy boundaries, and celebrating our accomplishments, even the small ones.
I love that. It's like we're building this reservoir of self-love and self-trust that we can then draw from when we're interacting with the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's what makes Sinek's work so relevant, especially in today's world.
Okay, let's bring it home.
Uh-huh.
Why do these ideas matter NFW more than ever? What's the urgency here?
Well, let's face it, we live in a time of constant change and uncertainty. Technology is moving at warp speed. Information overload is rampant, and it often feels like genuine connection is harder to come by.
It's like we're more connected than ever through social media, yet many of us feel increasingly isolated and lonely.
It's a paradox. And in this environment, Sinek's emphasis on trust, empathy, and purpose becomes even more vital.
No.
When we have strong, trusting relationships, we have a support system,
Yeah.
a sense of belonging, a foundation to fall back on when things get tough.
Right.
And when we cultivate empathy, we create a space for understanding and compassion, which is desperately needed in a world that often feels polarized and divided.
It's like those trust deposits and acts of empathy become little ripples of positivity that spread outward, creating a more harmonious world.
Exactly. And when we live and lead with a clear sense of purpose, it gives our lives meaning and direction. It helps us prioritize what truly matters and make decisions that align with our values.
This has been such an incredible deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of Sinek's work, but I've already gained so much valuable insight.
Me too. And what's so inspiring about Sinek's message is that it gives us hope.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we have the power to create more meaningful connections, both with others and with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with? What's really going to stick with them?
I'd say remember that relationships are a gift, not a burden.
Okay.
They enrich our lives in countless ways, but they do require effort. So
Right.
choose to invest in them. Choose to make those trust deposits. Choose to practice empathy. Choose to define your shared purpose.
Yeah.
And most importantly, choose to treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you offer to others.
That's beautiful. And for our amazing listeners, if you want to dive deeper into Sinek's work, we highly recommend checking out his books, Start With Why and The Infinite Game, as well as his many inspiring talks available online.
And remember, building stronger relationships isn't about grand gestures or complicated strategies.
Right.
It's about those small, consistent actions, those everyday choices that demonstrate care and commitment.
So go out there and make a deposit into someone's trust account today. Practice active listening. Have that courageous conversation about your shared purpose. And most importantly, be kind to yourself. Until next time, keep diving deep.